start with Manglacharan. Let's start. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langihayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna everyone. Today we are going to learn something about Lord Nityananda. Actually, I wanted to do about Advaita Acharya also, because we recently had Advaita Saptami, and which was this Monday, and now we will have following Monday we'll have Nityanand Trayodashi. So it is very, very important to learn about both of them. So I will now brief you about Advaita Acharya. We'll mainly talk about Lord Nityananda because it will be total injustice if I don't say anything. It will be a fault at my end if I just completely, totally ignore Advaita Acharya, which is not nice. So I am going to just brief you about, because we don't have much time. So we will try to cover both, but little bit about Advaita Acharya. Now, the interesting thing is there are few similarities here about both. So Advaita Acharya, now we start the mantra, the Panchatattva mantra, which is Panchatattva. Okay, no, I'm just saying the wrong thing. So the point is that Advaita Acharya is the cause why Mahaprabhu appeared, and to assist Mahaprabhu was Nityananda Prabhu present. So there are two verses that we are going to learn. We know one of them. I'm sure all of you know it. The other one I'm going to recite now, and they both glorify the Panchatattvas. Okay. So Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakt Avataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. What does this verse mean? It says, I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is non-different from his features as a devotee, devotional incarnation, manifestation, pure devotee, and devotional energy. How? Now you break the word, this verse, and you'll understand. Panchtatvatmakam Krishnam. Here, Krishnam is referring to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Panchtattva means the five elements, of which first is Krishnam, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has come as what? Bhakta Roop, as a devotee of the Lord. Then Swarupakam, his own Swarup is who? Nityananda Prabhu. Bhakta Avtaram, that is the incarnation, is the Advaita Acharya. We know he's Mahavishnu. And Bhaktakhyam, that means the one who's known as a devotee, that is the Jiva Tattva, that is Narad Muni. Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Now, who's the Shakti here? The energy of the Lord, Gadadhar Pandit. So these are the five, the Panchatattvas. Every time we pay obeisances to Panchatattva, this is the verse we're supposed to recite. Okay. So, and then obviously when we do a japa, to make the japa more effective, we first take the mercy of the Panchatattva. Only then it has multiplied effect. So What do we chant? Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advait Gadadhar, Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So of these Panchatattva, the three are Vishnu Tattva. Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu, and Advaita Acharya. Gadadhar Pandit is the energy of the Lord, and Jiva Tattva is Shrivas, that is Narad Muni. Okay. Now, so these three are very, very all five are very, very important, but these three are the Vishnu Tattva. So we're going to talk about two. Now you can imagine how important this week is, because we have appearances of both, two of the Panchatattvas, two of the Vishnu Tattvas from the Panchatattva in this time frame. So Advaita Acharya, we had Advaita Saptami, and now Nityanand Triyodashi we will have. So why was I saying? So we'll talk very little about Advaita Acharya. Just to brief you that Advaita Acharya is none other than a combined incarnation of Sadashiv and Mahavishnu. That is why he's called Vishnu Tattva, and he is called Advaita. The word itself says non-different from Hari, Advaita, So he is the Vishnu Tattva, and because he is he's Hari, he's not merging with Hari, not the Mayavadi philosophy, not one with Hari, not in that sense. So he basically has descended to preach this Bhakti Sampradaya, and that is why he's known as Acharya. Advaita Acharya. Acharya means the teacher. So, and we know Gaur Ganodesha Deepika talks about him being the incarnation of Sadashiv. So he's a combined form of both Sadashiv and Mahavishnu. So then he appeared in Nabagram in 1434 in Bengal, present day Bangladesh, to Sri Kuber Pandit and Srimati Nabha Devi. Okay. Now, he appeared 52 years prior the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. And from his birth, he was given the name Kuber and Kamalaksh. And when he was 12 years old, that's when he was sent to Navadip by his parents to study the Vedas, the Vedants, the Puranas, and the Shatdarshan. So I'll just cut it short. So when he came to Shantipur, in Navadip, he started living there in Shantipur, and he was learning, and while growing he could see that Navadip in those times was the hub of learning. Okay, everybody, all the scholars were present there. Unfortunately, there was a time where the philosophy was deviated, in the sense people were more interested in not in bhakti. They were not interested in bhakti. They were more into debates, into arguments, and they were just trying to prove. It was more for their self, sense gratification than bhakti. The bhakti aspect was missing very much. And this kind of was bothering Advaita Acharya. And they drifted from their original path. And Advaita Acharya saw the condition of people. And because of that, he used to read the scriptures every day. So, he doesn't need to, but to set an example for people like us, it's explained that once while reading the scriptures, he came across the prayers to Shaligram, Shila, with Tulsi and Tulsi leaves and Ganga water were so effective that Lord would hear your prayers. That is what he read, and considering that really registered in his mind, and he, when he saw, the devotees paradukha dukhi, so when he was seeing the misery around him, he desperately wanted the Lord to appear. So that is how he started praying to his Shaligram Shilas, worshipping the Shila with Tulsi leaves and Ganges water very intensely and with so much of devotion that Lord was actually bound by those prayers, and he was forced to come, and that's how Mahaprabhu appeared. So in nutshell, that's why he was responsible for him to appear. Now, he was also responsible for the disappearance of the Lord, because when the Lord appeared, and the mission of the Lord was to spread the Sankirtan movement, which he did. Okay, So when that mission was complete, I'm not going to go into the details because there's a lot we can talk about Advaita Acharya, but we need to cover Nityananda Triyodashi that is coming up. So I'll just give you the cause, and for him being the cause for the appearance and disappearance of the Lord. So seeing the condition of the Kali Yuga, he frequently prayed to Shaligram Shila, and that's how the Lord appeared. Now, when everything was done in the sense, Sankirtan movement was well established, and everything was going smooth at that time, it was the peak of the movement. So that time, Advaita Acharya, he asked Jagadananda, one of the associates of the Lord, to convey a message to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This was during the latter part of his sannyas and in Jagannath Puri, and he told him what was the message. So the message he gave was, here is a message from one madman to another madman. You have made everyone mad, and nobody is willing to purchase any rice. So there is no more need to sell the rice anymore. Accept this message from a madman. Now, Jagdananda Pandit, he could not understand at all. He was like, okay, I just have to give the message, I'll give. He went and he conveyed the message. This message was in the form of riddle. Jagdananda could not follow, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood. What was the message? The message was that you came to taste the nectar of Krishna Prem, and you made me also mad about Krishna, and you distributed this love of Krishna freely. Your mission is now complete. So if you want, you can choose to depart from this world to your abode. So this was the message. After receiving this message, Mahaprabhu winded up his pastimes, and that's how he left. He merged in the deity of Tota Gopinath. So that's how Advaita Acharya, in a way, is considered to be the cause of appearance and disappearance of Mahaprabhu. Now, coming to Nityananda Triyodashi, Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Nityananda Triyodashi is very, very important for us. That is the basis for us, for our devotional life. For the simple reason, Nityananda Prabhu is the Adi Guru. He is the eternal spiritual master. So unless we please him, unless we worship him, unless we go through him, we cannot reach Mahaprabhu. We cannot get the mercy of Mahaprabhu. So as we read the verse, Panchtattvakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupam Bhaktavtaram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam, in that Swarupam is Nityananda Prabhu. Now, he appeared to a religious Bengali Brahman known by the name of Harai Pandit. Harai Pandit, and the mother was Padmavati. In the town called Ekachakra around the year 1474. So Mahaprabhu appeared in 1486. So he appeared 12 years before Mahaprabhu appeared. So we know Nityananda Prabhu is none other than Balram. So, as the verse goes, Vrajendra Nandan Jai Sachi Suti Hoilo, say Balram Hoilo Nitai. So Vrajendra Nandan is none other than the Sachi Suta who appeared in Kali Yuga as the hidden incarnation, and Balram appeared as Nityananda Prabhu. So at that time, Balram was the older brother, and now here again Nityananda Prabhu was older. So he was older by 12 years. Okay? So we know very well, to get the mercy of Shri Krishna, we need to please Srimati Radharani. We need to get mercy of Srimati Radharani. And who's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Combined form of Radharani and Krishna. So to get the mercy of Krishna, we need the mercy of Srimati Radharani, and to get the mercy of Srimati Radharani and Krishna combined, we need mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And to get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we need the mercy of Nityananda Ram. Okay. Last time, if you remember, we discussed the pastime where Sugriv was, he had approached Sri Ram to help him defeat Bali. And then when Lord Ram shot an arrow he was prepared to shoot an arrow, but he did not, because then he said, okay, you go and fight and I'm going to help you. Here, Sugriv is fighting with Vali, and Vali obviously is much, much, much stronger than Sugriv. So he really beats him real bad. And Sugriv is wondering, why is my lord not helping me? And here, Lord Sri Ram is behind the tree, and he is trying to figure out who's who. So then when he fell to the ground and he ran for his life, he came and he told Sri Ram that, my lord, what is this? You told me you're going to help me. Now what happened? So Lord Ram said, I could not recognize. You both look so similar. So he said, what do I do now? So he said, okay, now this time you go, and I'm going to definitely help you, but make sure you take the garland from Lakshman. So he said, okay. So Lakshman gave his garland to Sugriv, and that's how Lord Ram was able to recognize him, and then he defeated Vali. He shot an arrow at Vali. Now when Sugriv came back, he said, my lord, you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is not so that you don't know who's Sugriv or who's Vali. Why did you do this to me? I know you know who's who, but I'm just curious as to why did you do this to me? So Lord Ram said that when I came to you, you welcomed me very well, but you did not give a seat to Lakshman to sit on, and that is not the way to honor a guest. And he said, you did not, that is why you did not get the mercy of Lakshman. Now, when I asked you, so firstly, he said this was your karma, punishment that you had to go through, and now when you got the mercy of Lakshman in the form of the garland, that's how you got my mercy, and I defeated Bali for you. So we now, from this particular pastime, we understand that without mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, we cannot get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for sure. Okay, so then why is it so? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is property of Nityananda. He is his pranadhan. So only if Nityananda wants, will he give his beloved Lord his mercy to the devotee he want to. So then you also remember last time we were discussing about Raghunath Das Goswami and how during the Panihati festival he got the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, and Nityananda Prabhu told him that you're a thief, because before he met Nityananda Prabhu, twice he had already approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu both the times had rejected him, saying that no, first you go and serve your parents. It was not so because of that. It was more so because he had not received the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu yet. And then during the Panihati festival, when Nityananda Prabhu gave him the punishment, saying that now you have to serve all the Vaishnavas here, being pleased with his service, Nityananda Prabhu asked Raghunath Das that what is it that you want? And he said, please, I just want shelter of the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After taking his permission and his mercy, was he able to go to Jagannath Puri, where he was able to be with Mahaprabhu for the next 16 years. So this is how amazing the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu is. He's actually the Guru Tattva, and that is why we need the mercy of our spiritual master to go up the parampara till we reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without the mercy of the Guru, we cannot do anything. So who's the Adi Guru? Who's the Guru Tattva? Nityananda Prabhu. Now, if you understand, Nityananda Prabhu is Balram himself. Balram means what? One who gives you all the strength. What strength? So when you tell people that you need strength to perform your spiritual activity, they misunderstand at times and think that they need the physical strength. Why so the physical strength? Because they think that spiritual life is very austere. So they need some physical strength to keep up with the austerity when they take up to the path of spirituality. But that is not how it is. That's not the strength they're talking about. The strength that Balram gives us is the spiritual strength. We need the intelligence to understand these spiritual topics. That spiritual strength, the source of that strength Actually, the source of every strength is Nityananda Prabhu, but when we talk in terms of devotion, we're talking about the spiritual strength. So Nityananda Prabhu is the source of that strength, and we need that strength, and we will get that only by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. So he is the source of all strength. Just just as before reaching Radha Krishna, we first have to reach Gaur Nitai, and by their mercy can we move ahead. So that is why, if you see, before chanting the Maha Mantra is what? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is all about Radha Krishna. So before we chant this, we chant the Panchatattva Mantra. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Because before we reach Radha and Krishna, we need the mercy of Gaur Nitai. So that's how we chant this mantra. Now, Nityananda Prabhu appeared in Ekachakra Dham, as we discussed. Now, why is this Ekachakra Dham known as Ekachakra? Because it's interesting to note this, that during Kurukshetra, the battle of Kurukshetra, in the battlefield, when Arjuna was fighting, Bhishma Dev. If you remember the whole pastime, if I get into that, we'll lose the track, but let me brief it up. So if you remember those 5 arrows which were with Duryodhan, and then he had taken from Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma Dev, and the next day when, then Arjuna came at night. At night, they used to become friends, right? So Lord Krishna, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being the Paramatma, he knew that those 5 arrows with which Bhishma was supposed to kill the Pandavas the following day in the war were now with Duryodhan. And Shri Krishna asked Arjuna to go and get those arrows from Duryodhan in return to a promise that Duryodhan had made to Arjuna, because Arjuna had once saved the life of Duryodhan from the attack of Gandharvas. Okay, so he went there and he got those arrows. Now Bhishma Dev was very upset, very, very upset. Now even before the battle had begun, Lord Krishna had vowed that he's not going to pick up any weapon. So and Bhishma Dev had vowed that he is going to kill these 5 he's going to kill these 5 Pandavas with those 5 arrows the following day. Now, taking those arrows away from Duryodhan made him, that is Bhishma Dev, break his vow. So now Bhishma Dev said, because Krishna made me break my vow, I will make sure that he breaks his vow. And what was the vow of Krishna? That he's not going to pick up any weapon. Okay. So then, next day, when in the battlefield during that time, there came a point where Arjuna was in dire need of help. Bhishma Dev was all over him, and it was required for the Lord to intervene, and that's what he did. And he picked up the chakra, the wheel of the chariot, to throw at Bhishma Dev. But then Arjuna stopped him and he said, no, please don't do this. You vowed that you're not going to pick up the weapon, and you already picked up the weapon, at least don't use it. And he's our grandfather, and he kind of pacified him, and Lord agreed. And but he was angry. Lord was still angry, and he had the chakra in his hand. So he threw the chakra in great anger. So the place where that chakra landed was Ekachakra. That's how it got its name, Ekachakra. Also, the Pandavas during their exile had come and stayed at this place where Bhima had ended up killing the demon Bakasura. So then, this is the importance of the place Ekachakra. Now, when Padmavati, the mother of Nityananda Rai, was when she was pregnant when she was carrying Nityananda Rai, that's when a sadhu came. Sadhu came and he saw Padmavati, and he got very ecstatic. He started, he started saying things like this is the womb that has given the shelter to Balram, and Balram is going to come. And he was just talking about this and he left. So it is said that this particular sadhu was none other than Gargamuni himself. And we know Gargamuni is the family priest of Vasudev. So Krishna basically got his name, Krishna, and Krishna Balaram, they both got their names from Gargamuni. Okay. Now, now then Nityananda Prabhu appeared, and he was performing many wonderful childhood pastimes. So actually during his childhood pastimes, they used to, how the kids play, how you all play today, they also used to play. And their plays actually included they used to enact the roles of characters from Mahabharata and so many stories, Ramayana, Now, one time, and this all Nityananda Prabhu knew, okay? So one time he was enacting the part of Lakshman. So they had this wonderful pastime, the play was going on, and then he got so deep in the role of Lakshman that he had told one of his friends to announce that Sanjeevani booty is here when Hanuman goes and gets it, but his friend forgot. So he actually became unconscious because he was so much absorbed in the role. Then everybody got very tense that how do you bring him back to consciousness? And then suddenly his friend remembered the line, and when he said that line, that's when he came back to consciousness. Now his parents were wondering that such deep pastimes we never shared with him. How does he know all this? How are they enacting? And he was the play director anyway. He used to tell everybody what to do, what not to do. So then all the people in Eka Chakra, they got worried. They ended up asking him that, hey, Nityananda, how do you know all these plays? He would laugh and say, they are my pastimes. What is it that I would know? None of them would understand that. What does he mean by these are my pastimes? They were actually his pastimes. He was playing the role of Lord Lakshman right there in Ramayana. And they would never understand. And he would just laugh it out. They are all my pastimes. So I'm kind of into it, But anyway, so the time went by, and he was, growing big. Then when he was 12 years old, there came another sadhu. And that sadhu, in those days, these pious sadhus, when they used to come to the house of the, host, the host would treat them very well and would always ask out of humility, with a lot of humility, out of respect, that what is it that we can do for you? How can we please you? So Harai Pandit did the same. Harai Pandit asked this sadhu after, when he was about to leave, he came there, he had prasadam, he rested, and now it was time for him to go. And that's when Harai Pandit asked him that, please tell me, how can I serve you? So the sadhu said, well, I am growing old. The only service that I can accept from you is your child. Please give your child to me because I am traveling and I need a companion to help me out. Harai Pandit got the shock of his life. He was not prepared for this kind of gift to be parted with. So he said, so he didn't say anything. He and Padmavati, they were just dumbstruck. They just could not react. They were thinking what is going to happen. But in those days, they had to value their words. So because he said it and it was for a good cause, they had to part with their child. So they let Nityananda Prabhu go with the sadhu to help him out. So now with this sadhu, he traveled for good 20 years. And then he came by himself to Navadvip. Though Mahaprabhu at that time was 20 years old, but he did not come earlier because by that time Mahaprabhu had not started manifesting his pastimes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was in the scholarly mood and he was not in the bhakti mood yet, because everything, in Mahaprabhu's time, everything had things had to go at a particular pace. And so this was the time when actually Nityananda Prabhu appeared in Navadvip. And when he appeared, Mahaprabhu sensed it. Mahaprabhu knew that Nityananda Prabhu was here. So he sent his men that some, Avaduta is here and go and find him. Nobody could find him. He came to Nandanacharya's house and he told Nandanacharya not to tell anybody that he's there. He was basically hiding himself. Internally they knew Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu, they were just having a wonderful pastime there. And then Nityanand Prabhu was hiding in Nandanacharya's Prabhu's house. But nobody could find him. So Mahaprabhu came himself. When he came, he knew exactly where he was. So he directly went to Nandanacharya's house, and there, when he saw Nityanand Prabhu, the eight ecstatic symptoms, they manifested. That is called the Asht Satvik Vikar. Those were manifested, and after that they were always together. Then one time, what happened was Mahaprabhu asked, this is a very famous pastime of Jagai and Madai. So I'll just brief you on that one also. So one time Mahaprabhu had given these instructions to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and to Haridas Thakur and Nityanand Prabhu to spread Sankirtan. And so they were doing that without considering anything. There were no, ifs and buts as to who to give the love of Godhead. They were giving it out freely. So one time, they were passing by a neighborhood, and there they saw these two men who were drunk and who were, though they were in the guise of a Brahmana, but they were intoxicated and they were using, talking very loudly, and all the bad signs, bad omens that they could see were there. So Nityanand Prabhu asked people there, then who are they? So they said, you don't know, they are the sons of a Brahmana, but they have no Brahmanical qualification. So Nityanand Prabhu, being the eternal associate of Lord, knew that the purpose of Lord's descent was to spread this movement without any discrimination. And he knew that if people like Jagai and Madhai, so their names were actually Jagdananda and Madhvananda. And if people like Jagai and Madhai were to be transformed, then people will have very strong belief in faith in Mahaprabhu, and they're going to take up to this movement very willingly. So he thought that, okay, I'm going to take a chance by transforming them. So he went up to them and he he asked them to chant the holy name, and they were all drunk, intoxicated, and they were like, who are you? Why are you bothering us? It is said that they had done every possible sinful activity that they could do other than the Vaishnava Pran. Why? Because they had never come across any Vaishnava. Reason being, drunkards are going to associate with drunkards, even though they were coming from a Brahmana family, but they had no qualification. So their association was not of sadhus or, saints or Vaishnavas. So Vaishnava Aparadh was the only Aparadh which they had not done. Other than that, they had done everything. That Aparadh also they did now when they met Nityanand Prabhu, and when Nityanand Prabhu was trying to convince them to take up to this process, that's when Madhai, actually Jagai and Madhai. So Jagai, actually he picked up the clay pot from which they were drinking the liquor, and he threw it at Nityanand Prabhu, which came and it struck him on his forehead, and it was bad. His there was blood coming out from there, and when the news reached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came running in and in a very angry mood, and he just wanted to use his Sudarshan Chakra and kill Jagai. But Nityanand Prabhu, he came to her, he caught hold of his lotus feet, and he said, please Mahaprabhu, don't do that. The purpose of your incarnation is to kill the propensity to do sin, not the sinner. So please don't do this. And so obviously, once Nityanand Prabhu had decided that Jagai and Madhai are to receive the mercy of the Lord. So obviously Lord could not do anything, but he was very, very angry. So then to pacify him, Nityananda Prabhu said, but you know what? So Mahaprabhu said, no, how dare they hurt you? So he said, but then this Madhai, he saved me, because Madhai was trying to stop Jagai, that don't do that. So hearing that, Mahaprabhu became so happy with Madhai that he immediately embraced him, thanked him, and Jagai was like, what about me? He understood that he had made a big mistake. Then he seeked his forgiveness, but Mahaprabhu said, no, Nityananda Prabhu has to forgive you. I'm not going to forgive you. Then Nityananda Prabhu, obviously being more compassionate, he obviously forgave Jagai and Madhai, and in atonement, they did build Jagai and Madhai Ghat. So anyway, so this pastime, that also shows how merciful Nityananda Prabhu is. Now, one more interesting pastime I'll tell you was about, there was, so Nityananda Prabhu, he was an Avadut. Avadut is somebody who doesn't follow rules and regulations, because the material modes or the material world doesn't affect him. He's in his own world. So even though he was an associate of the Lord who was spreading the Sankirtan movement, he was a very staunch devotee of the Lord, but he used to move around with very valuable clothes, jewelry, and colorful clothes. And at that time, he was not married. So it was considered like, he was in the sannyas vesh, basically, in terms of his activities, but his appearance wasn't such. So there was this one Brahmana who, hearing the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had become a very staunch follower of Mahaprabhu. So one day he came to Jagannath Puri, and Mahaprabhu was also very affectionate towards him. So this Brahmana came and he asked, he told Mahaprabhu that I have a question, please, may I ask? Mahaprabhu said, yes, you are my associate, tell me, what do you want to know? So he said that I just want to know that this is not the behavior of a sannyas. I want to know about Lord Nityananda. And he is the one who's spreading the movement, and he's with all these jewels, wonderful, colorful clothes, and he's just like an avadut, and it's hard for me to accept. What is this? So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleared his doubt, and he said he's an avadut, and the modes don't affect him. He's not in this material world. So being convinced, this Brahmana went back to Navadvip, seeked forgiveness from Nityananda Prabhu, and seeing his genuine, he was very genuine. He was very, the way he was, that's how he went, and he told Mahaprabhu when he came, and he seeked forgiveness, and then Nityananda Prabhu forgave him. So this is how Nityananda Prabhu used to move around. So then there was another, so in those days, as we were discussing, that the Brahmanas had been corrupted, big time. So another Brahmana, he had become a dacoit, and he had a whole gang of people working for him. So then they all heard about Nityananda Prabhu and his such opulent lifestyle, because Nityananda Prabhu was not into this material world, so he kind of didn't pay attention to all this. But then they heard that this Nityananda Prabhu is a preacher who is in the wish of very opulent lifestyle he had. And he said, and this chief of the dacoits, who was a Brahmana again, he was telling his friends that if we loot him, then we are good for our lives. That's how much wealth we can get from him. So come on, let's go and do it. So Nityananda Prabhu, being, he knew he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So being present in everyone's heart, he understood that these dacoits were trying to do that. So he purposely chose the place of another Brahmana to go and spend some time there, which was in outskirts. It was in a very quiet place, and these dacoits were thinking, wow, so we don't have to worry about people also. This is such a quiet place, quiet neighborhood. Now we're going to attack him. So then they went there, and they were waiting for Nityanand Prabhu to come out of that house of the Brahmana, and but Nityanand Prabhu did not come. So these people, they were trying to see, the dacoits were trying to see what's going on. So when they saw from the window, so they were having their Krishna Katha, and he was just chanting, and wonderful feasting was going on, and these people are waiting. So then, under the spell of Maya, what happened was they slept the whole night, whereas their plan was that during the night, when everybody is asleep and when Nityanand Prabhu is going to step out of the house, that's when we are going to do the job, and nobody will come to know because it's such a quiet area. But under the spell of Maya, they slept. They slept so peacefully, just like a baby, all night. So in the morning, when they woke up, they started blaming each other that you slept first and it's your fault. And the other one was saying, yeah, I slept, but you're not the one who was awake either. And like that, they were fighting. So the chief of the dacoit said, okay, hold on. This is not helping us. Blame game is not helping us. Let's think what we're supposed to do. So they said, okay, what we will do is, maybe the chief was saying, I think so this happened to us because we did not worship Chandi Devi properly. I think we should first seek her blessings, and then we can come and attack this. Chandi Devi is a very ferocious form of Durga Devi, and so then they did that night. They performed all the rituals that they wanted to. Again, they came back to the same house, and they were waiting. Now this time, when it got little dark in the night, they saw huge, very tall Haridutas standing outside the door and guarding the house and circumambulating and chanting Hari Hari. And these dacoits, they got so scared just by looking at their size. And they were like, no, we cannot, do anything to this Nityanand right now, because this one person also, one Duta is able to kill, he'll be probably be able to kill hundreds of us. So they ran, they ran out of fear. And then they were wondering, what is this? So then they thought, okay, I think the chief was saying, let's give it a break. We'll come back after some days. Now, after a few days, again, they came. Now, they tried this time to follow. They wanted to do that. But you know what happened? When the night approached, and they all became blind. They were not able to see. And because they were not able to see, some were falling in the ditch, some were falling on the thorns, some were falling in the unseen pits. So the chief of the dacoits was thinking that this is not an ordinary person. We're trying to rob him for so long, but it's just not working out. So then he had this very strong realization that Nityanand Prabhu is none other than the Lord himself. So he took shelter in his heart, and he cried, and he cried for help of Nityanand Prabhu. And that's when Nityanand Prabhu actually appeared. And all these bad omens, and the signs, they all disappeared. And the chief of the dacoits, he then sought forgiveness of Nityanand Prabhu and said that I have done such wrong deeds, I shall go and kill myself. So Nityanand Prabhu said, no, don't even think about it. I have a task for you. So he said, what is the task? He said, I want you to go and spread the Sankirtan movement in your dacoits gang. And this is what Nityanand Prabhu was. He was thinking that if the dacoits start chanting the holy name, then this movement is definitely going to spread far and wide. So that's how, they gave up their bad habits, and all the dacoits in their, the chief of the dacoits, that's the task that was given to him to spread the Sankirtan movement amongst the dacoits. So anyway, so then, yes, so this was another pastime. That's how merciful and compassionate Nityanand Prabhu was. So then, who is actually, he is the Adi Guru. But then, as we know, they set an example. He doesn't need any guru, but he did end up accepting a guru, and his spiritual master was Madhvendra Puri. So Madhvendra Puri was the spiritual master of Advaita Acharya also. Now, Madhvendra Puri is the spiritual master of Ishwar Puri, and Ishwar Puri is the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they all are setting examples for people like us that how important it is for us to accept a spiritual master, and how we can do nothing without the mercy of the spiritual master. So then, when Mahaprabhu went to Jagannath Puri, so we know of the 24 years, after 24 years, when he accepted sannyas, of those 24 years, 18 years he was in Jagannath Puri. All of them, all the associates in Bengal wanted to go to Jagannath Puri. So did Nityanand Prabhu. But Mahaprabhu said no. He told Nityanand Prabhu, you go back to Bengal, get married, set an example. I am already a sannyasi. You don't need to be sannyasi. You need to set an example how to spread Krishna consciousness movement in a grihastha ashram, because I am doing that in sannyasa ashram. Now, Nittai, he was an avadut who has no clue of what's going on around him. He was supposed to enter grihastha ashram. So there was this Brahmana by the name of Suryakant Sarkela. He had two daughters, Vasudha and Janva. So Nityanand Prabhu got married to both of them. And who exactly were they? In their in Gaur Ganodesha Deepika tells about them being none other. So Nityanand Prabhu was Balram, and they were Rohini and Varuni. So now, he in this particular Grihastha ashram also, the way he spread this movement was amazing. The examples that he set. So he had one son, Veer Chandra, and one daughter, Ganga Devi. And Veer Chandra is said to be partial incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was leaving, he said that after I leave this world, people will see Gaur Chandra in Veer Chandra. So some of his, the partial incarnation, basically his expansion was there. And his daughter was Ganga Devi. So then they spread, Sankirtan movement like that. There are so many pastimes of Nityananda Prabhu. We just cannot cover all of them. So basically he was there just to spread this movement far and wide, and that's how he helped Mahaprabhu. And the way he left the planet was another very mysterious thing. So there's a temple called by the name of Bankam Rai Mandir. Okay, this temple was originally, it was built by Veer Chandra, that is the son of Nityanand Prabhu, but the deity of Bankam Rai was installed by Nityanand Prabhu himself when he was there on this planet. And this Bankam Rai is none other than Sri Krishna himself, and to his left is Srimati Radharani. But when Nityanand Prabhu left, how did he leave us? He was spreading the Sankirtan movement everywhere, like an avadut, traveling, singing the holy names. And one day, just traveling like this, he entered this temple, and then he never came out of this temple because he merged in the deity of Bankam Rai. And after he left this planet, was the deity of Janva Devi, placed on the right side. On left side is Srimati Radharani anyway. On the right side then was the deity of Janva Devi established there by Veer Chandra, his, their son. So this is how he left. And these are the glories of Nityanand Prabhu in nutshell. There's a lot about him. It's basically without his mercy, we cannot approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Without Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we cannot approach Radha Krishna. Without the mercy of Srimati Radharani, we cannot reach Sri Krishna. So we can understand how important is the position of a spiritual master in our life, because Nityanand Prabhu is the Adi Guru. To reach him, we need to go through the parampara system, starting with our spiritual master. So it is very, very important to accept a spiritual master, because by all these examples, by Nityanand Prabhu accepting Madhvendra Puri as his guru, they're just setting an example. They are the incarnation and the Lord themselves. They don't need to do all that. But time and again, this has been there in the Shastras, is how important it is to accept a guru. And on this day, on Nityanand Triyodashi, we basically fast till noon, and then because he's a Vishnu Tattva, so all the Vishnu Tattva appearances we observe Ekadashi Prasada. So after 12, fasting till 12 means Nirjal fasting till noon, basically whatever the time is, the noon time. It varies here in, it's not 12 always. So you can check in GCal and you'll know what is the noon time. And that's how we break our fast. After Nirjal, we follow Ekadashi, and the next day we do grains. So please, please, please pray to Lord Nityanand Prabhu on that day for your spiritual strength, for everybody's spiritual strength. And please observe the fast and then followed by the feast. Anybody has anything to say? We'll end here. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the class, Mataji. I learned a lot about Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sweetheart. Any questions? All right. So we'll end here, and then we will resume next Wednesday. Okay?
Thank you so much, Mataji, for a very wonderful session, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, kids, for joining. So we have to end here. If anybody have any questions, please raise your hand or unmute yourself and feel free to ask to Mataji or any doubt. So Mataji, I think all the kids clear as of now. So can we end our call here?
Sure, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. हर ग्रेस नैन मंजरी माता जी की जय। वांछा कल तरु कृपा सिंधु पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। वैष्णववृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। गुरु महाराज की जय। हर ग्रेस नैन मंजरी माता जी की जय।
Jai Gurudev, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Wish you
Krishna.
a very happy Nityananda Triyodashi.
Wish you the same. All of you, please observe Nityanand Triyodashi, and if possible, chant a few rounds extra.
Yes, Mataji, that is more important for kids. Thank you, Mataji. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Hare Krishna.